It was a rough year for the Philippine property market in 2020. Obviously, a great deal of that can be attributed to the impact COVID-19 had on the country's economy. Looking ahead at the next 12 months, it remains to be seen just how the property market is going to perform. There continues to be talk of a recovery, but that can only happen if these three key questions about the Philippine property market in 2021 are answered. The Philippines was arguably Southeast Asia's best performing property market over the past few years. However, it isn't quite clear if the country can just flip the switch and return to that scenario once COVID-19 is in the rearview mirror. Really, it all sort of hinges on what happens with the offshore gaming operators. If they return in droves once travel restrictions are lifted, it's probably a good sign the market will get its mojo back shortly. If the number of pogos returning to the country is much less than it was pre-COVID-19, it could be a sign the market is in for a bigger slowdown than anticipated. It's important to note that the offshore gaming operators aren't the only reason for the property market's momentum, but in 2018 and especially 2019, they were a key driver of the Philippine property market, so that's why it's really going to bear watching. At the moment, we don't really have a good understanding of just how COVID-19 is going to affect the property sector in terms of consumer preferences, in terms of usage, and other things of that nature. Over the next 12 months, we'll get a better understanding of what new normal practices were trends that will carry on into the future and what was just a fad or something that we did during this period that won't carry on as life resumes. This is something that is going to affect every sector of the property market in one way or another. One example of this is how Ayala Lane ended up converting some of its unused mall space during the lockdown into e-commerce facilities. We know e-commerce is only going to get bigger in the Philippines, but what about retail in malls? If people are less likely to go and shop there, it means that a lot of developers are going to have empty space and will need to do something with it. It's only natural that e-commerce plays a role in that. In the commercial sector, there have been multiple reports of companies moving away from urban office towers to the outskirts of Metro Manila in integrated communities that are deemed to be safer or healthier or just better for employees because they don't have the traffic and there's more green spaces around. It's really going to be interesting to watch just how some of the things COVID-19 forced upon us actually become fixtures of the property market for 2021 and years to come. Overseas Filipino workers have played a key role in the growth of the country's property market. Rather through sending remittances back to family who would then use it to make deposit on houses, or by buying properties directly, their impact can't be understated. It's estimated that nearly 450,000 OFWs will have returned to the Philippines by the end of the first half of 2021. That's not great news, however, there may be a few silver linings. Firstly, OFW remittances did pick up as the year ended, which could be a sign that more remittances could be on their way to the country. Secondly, should the COVID-19 vaccine be rolled out successfully by the middle of the year, there is a real chance that more Filipino workers can return to their jobs abroad or find new work overseas. This would be a huge boon for the economy and in turn, the Philippine property market. The potential of the Philippine property market remains, even if it won't necessarily be tapped into this year. Many of the real estate sector's key drivers, such as a young population that has real demand to buy housing, remains in place and will support future growth. Additionally, if progress can be made on proposed infrastructure projects throughout the country, the Philippine property market would benefit tremendously both in 2021 and looking ahead beyond that. For Dot Property, I'm Editor-in-Chief Cheyenne Hollis.